Thank you, you wonderful force multipliers. Um, and I'm so thrilled to be here with my friend and colleague and a true leader of our movement to push back on autocracy and to restore American democracy, Skye Perryman and the friends at Democracy Forward. Um, I thought I would talk a little bit about how I came. As you heard, I'm the co-founder and the former board chair of another one of your four pro-democracy outlets. And I thought I would talk a little bit about State Democracy Defenders Fund and how it came to be and to meet this moment. And then I'm going to share a little bit about our cases. Uh, like Democracy Forward, we're active and in really litigating and making a difference in working both in the court of law and in the court of public opinion. I was a very happily retired former ambassador writing books when Donald Trump returned to office or took office, I should say, in 2017. And he gave a description in his Department of Justice speech of my efforts a week ago Friday, which is a not inaccurate description. I'm going to summarize it because he talked about me and our organizations for quite a while. But he said, everything I read is Norm Eisen. He's dedicated his soul to fighting me for the past 9 years, and he's been pretty successful. That is an accurate summary. If you look at the transcript, those are the actual words. I was very busy in the first Trump term, including at Crew, where I returned for a second term as board chair after founding it, bringing almost 300 cases, opening over 300 legal matters against Trump. The two most famous were the emoluments cases and the impeachment, where I was co-counsel in the impeachment. And but even I did not expect when I started that journey that he would attempt to stage a coup. I did, by the time I was done in the impeachment, think, oh, this guy might not leave voluntarily. Long story short, very active in fighting back on and defeating the coup, representing the states. And now I get to the origins of the Democracy Defenders. There were a group of us who led the way. My job was to represent states and state AGs. A group of us who led the way in defeating that coup. On January 7th, 2021, we decided that the danger was too great to stop work. And so since then, in a variety of ways, my wonderful friend Skye Perryman co-convened over 300 bipartisan experts where we developed our theory of change. Skye and I, in a conservative group, Principles First, we were afraid that this terrible, terrible day might come. And so out of that, those fighters, successful, I combined people who were successful in fighting that coup, fighting in the court of law, fighting in the court of opinion, peacefully, lawfully, but vigorously with international experts, because autocracy is not unique to the United States. If I can have my first slide, I boiled my 36 slide deck down to just 1 or 2 slides for you. If I can have the first slide. Well done. So this is what we discovered. We traveled to build this theory of change. We didn't only have conferences like the one Skye and I convened. We published the American Autocracy Threat Tracker, an analysis of Trump's terrible plans. We traveled around the world. Why Did they fail to oust autocracy in Hungary and in Turkey? They had Trump-like leaders. They're still there. But in Poland, Brazil, Czech Republic, where I was ambassador, they managed to get rid of autocrats. Not to mention places in the United States, like why is DeSantis still running Florida, or governor in Texas still running their autocracies, but we got rid of Scott Walker in Wisconsin. So we studied all of this, and there's 1,001 things you can do, including we visited those countries. There's, forget 994, these are the 7 things that you must do. And as I'll show you, our litigation and communications portfolio rigorously executes across these 7. If it's not in this list, we don't do it. First and foremost, you have to defend the rule of law. If you lose the rule of law, the autocrats will take courts and judges and lawyers and turn them against democracy advocates. If you can protect it, then you will be able to use the rule of law to hold them accountable. That's why we went to court to get a court order protecting 6,000 FBI agents from being targeted by Donald Trump. He was fixing to dox him and fire him. We stopped him in his tracks with our wonderful partners. That's why we went to court in California. I just was in a deposition today. That's part of the reason I'm so dressed up. In this case, over 20,000 federal employees ordered reinstated, illegal firing. I believe Donald Trump wants to kick these people out so he can replace them with his cronies, even put some of those insurrectionists in the FBI jobs. We're not going to allow that. We're defending the rule of law. Number 2, the second way, if you can hold autocrats back by defending the rule of law, then you can oust them by protecting elections. Right now, we have a team on the ground in Wisconsin. We expect that they're going to try to steal that Supreme Court race there. We're not going to let them. We've been filing multiple complaints, litigating. That includes, we just had we filed a complaint. We got an investigation open to Elon Musk. He's trying to buy that election. And due to the state of Wisconsin, what he did is trying to do to the federal government. A similar team on the ground in North Carolina. There's a fight going on, and we're getting ready. We're going to bring big litigation. Been talking all day to labor unions, civil rights groups, and others. This terrible election denial EO Donald Trump signed yesterday. We're going to go to court. We're already drafting up the papers. Speaking of Elon Musk, the number 3 thing we saw, every oligarch has a tyrant, and every tyrant an oligarch, and that's Musk. That's why we've brought so many cases opposing Doge. We filed the very first case against Doge. It was the very first case of any kind against the second Trump administration. My emoluments case was the same in the first Trump administration. So I hold the record for the very first cases in both administrations. Our most important win was getting a court order in Maryland that Doge and Musk are unconstitutional as applied to their shutting down USAID, and others around the country are using that to build out their case. You must fight corruption. I'll be quick on the other ones. You have to protect pluralism, and Skye will tell you about her big win today. Wow, Skye, I'm so excited to be your opening act. Her big win today with the ACLU in the DC circuit. We played a part. This is how, you might ask, how do these groups work together? We all work together. Skye and the ACLU brought the case. I was very honored to represent 24 conservatives. Every administration from Nixon to Trump 1 saying this is heinous. We can't deport innocent people. A bunch of innocent people were deported. That is not conservative. The swing vote in that case is a conservative, Karen Henderson. We were very proud to write that brief and support the tremendous win that our colleagues as lead litigants secured. You can't allow picking on migrants. That's why we also filed the very first case on birthright citizenship. Trump can't pick and choose who gets to be a citizen. The Constitution says that, not Donald Trump. We filed that very first case. Next, you have to protect civic and media space. Donald Trump is attacking the unions, the universities, the media. That's why Friday I'll be in court again. I may not even bother to take off my necktie between now and Friday, or my pocket hanky. Friday I'll be in court again, fighting for the voice of America in New York City in a federal court. Donald Trump wrongly shut down our voice around the country. We can't allow that. Countering disinformation. When he lies, we counter that, and demonstrating that democracy delivers. We do that through litigation. There's cases in both of those areas, but we also do it through the contrarian. For those of you who aren't familiar, we started, Jen Rubin quit the Washington Post, I quit CNN, and we started an outlet, truthful, not neutral. Neutrality in a time of autocracy is dishonest. We call it like it is. 2 months, we have 600,000 subscribers to the contrarian, and talking about Trump's lies, countering the disinformation, and explaining democracy delivers, dictatorship doesn't. Thank you, friends. Look forward to answering your questions. All 40 of us at State Democracy Defenders Fund are so excited to be sponsored by the False Force Multipliers. And now I want to introduce you to the ultimate force multiplier in our world, my friend, the visionary head of Democracy Forward, Skye Perryman. Skye?
Thank you, Norm. I should always go after you because you're such a wonderful friend and hype person. And of course, everyone is so grateful for all that you're doing. And I think it's important, before I get into our work, to just note that Norm has been targeted, of course, by the president in a range of speeches and other writings, and we are all in solidarity with him, in solidarity with his organizations, and all of the lawyers who are on the front lines, who the administration is targeting, because the strategy of using the courts and using the law to protect our rights and to protect the well-being of the American people is working. So it is so wonderful to get to be with you all tonight. And on behalf of everyone at Democracy Forward, I just want to say we are incredibly honored to get to be part of your group of democracy defenders. I will talk a little bit about how we come to this work and what we've been doing to prepare, and how the work has been going. It's been going well, and the challenges that we see ahead. And then maybe we'll have a discussion tonight. Democracy Forward was founded in the wake of the 2016 election, when in those first early months of 2017, we started seeing the Trump administration doing things that were not normal, that did not have popular support, and that were deeply harmful to people and communities. And you saw the lawyers show up. You saw the lawyers like Norm, you saw the lawyers like the ACLU, you saw lawyers in airports showing up. But what was happening is, under those tip of the spear issues that were getting the headlines, there were a range of ways that the first Trump administration was using the federal government and weaponizing our own government against people and communities in ways that weren't making the headlines and that did not have legal support and legal challenges. And so Democracy Forward was founded to fill that gap. And we won a range of cases against the first Trump administration. And then after January 6th, expanded our work into state and local communities because we wanted to be sure that we were addressing extremism there. And then about 18 months ago, alongside good friends like Norm and so many other organizations, we started asking an uncomfortable question that many people did not want to ask, which is what would happen if this federal landscape regressed again and we were facing a far-right actor, Donald Trump, as president of the United States. And while we did not want to have to face that reality, our organization, alongside so many others, including our friends at State Democracy Defenders, Public Citizen Crew, all of the partners that you all have here, began preparing for the moment. And so we did so through bringing people together across issues, all of the groups that work on issues, national groups and local groups, groups that have lawyers, groups that have great policy experts, to plan and prepare for this moment. It just so happened that Donald Trump made it easier for us because Project 2025 and the far right groups that were behind Project 2025 wrote a lot of what they were going to do down. And what we know is that when an extremist tells you what they are going to do, you need to believe them. And so we did. And we did a lot of work to educate the American people about the harms of Project 2025. So much so, by the way, that the president and JD Vance and others on the campaign trail had to run away from Project 2025 and say, we don't even know what this is. We don't know anything to do. And then once they were elected, they started accelerating Project 2025, and we have been able to be there in court, fast on our feet, and to protect the American people from a range of their harmful activities. There were some things that were on the bingo card, like many of the policies in Project 2025. There were other things that weren't. No one knew that Doge was going to emerge. No one knew that Elon Musk was going to be necessarily given the keys to the proverbial kingdom, but we are addressing that because of all of this preparation work. And so I think Meg will share a slide to begin to just orient you to some of the work that we were proud to launch right after the election, and then, of course, right after Inauguration Day, in collaboration with Norm and State Democracy Defenders, with Public Citizen, with Crew, with the ACLU, with so many of our friends and partners. We launched an initiative called Democracy 2025, and you can go learn more about that at democracy2025.org. And it catalogs all of the activities that the Trump administration is engaged in and how people and communities are responding. That's a public website. We also have work that we're doing in quieter spaces with organizations and groups in order to be sure that the legal landscape is covered. The Trump administration lost more than 80% of the time in the first administration. And we're already seeing them losing like that in this administration because their playbook, while much more harmful and far more extreme, is relatively unchanged. They will seek to do things that harm people and communities. They will seek to do things that are deeply unpopular, and they will seek to do things that violate the law. And in that overreach, we find opportunity and we can go in and stop much of what they're doing. In addition to democracy2025.org, which you again can go to the website and learn more and sign up, we encourage you to do that. We also launched an initiative called civilservicestrong.org. And again, with the partners that you all are supporting here, everyone is involved in that effort. We can put that website in the chat. Which is supporting public servants and our civil servants. Norm and his team have won a range of court orders that are incredibly important. Our team has won a range of both court orders and administrative decisions that are protecting the civil service. We just filed another matter today, actually, with the ACLU. So you're seeing our work on the civil service. We brought in Rob Shriver, who was the acting head of the Office of Personnel Management, in order to be able to help civil servants who are facing threats and targeting. And we are just incredibly excited to be able to serve in this time. So that is civilservicestrong.org. I want to now talk to you a little bit about what we've been able to accomplish at Democracy Forward and how we are modeled in order. People ask us how we're able to get into court quickly. Well, first of all, we've got a lot of great friends and partners at so many organizations that are working alongside us. And secondly, at Democracy Forward, we have never been structured to have to rely on pro bono support from law firms or from so-called big law. I'm a former big law litigator, but we are not structured to have to rely on that. We have exceptional litigators on our team at Democracy Forward, which has enabled us to be able to meet the president's so-called shock and awe with our own shock and awe in the courts. And we have been able to get into court faster than the administration thought that we were going to be able to, and to win orders that are going to that have and will continue to protect people and communities. So I will tell you a little bit about that work. Since inauguration, there have been more than 130 lawsuits filed against the Trump administration. Those lawsuits have been filed by organizations like the ones that you all are supporting. They have been filed by the state AGs, and then they've been filed by some private parties. At Democracy Forward, we have filed 30 legal actions since inauguration, and we have launched 67 public investigations. And then if you add up all of the lawsuits that have been filed by the Democracy 2025 partners, all of the groups we're working with, and you add the state AGs onto that, you get the vast majority of these lawsuits. So the litigation is very coordinated, as Norm mentioned. I'll highlight a few things because I think some were a bit skeptical about how the courts were going to perform during this time. And what we are seeing is that judges, whether they were appointed by Republicans, whether they were appointed by Democrats, whether they were appointed by Donald Trump himself, judges across the political spectrum are answering the call right now in courts, stopping blatantly unconstitutional and harmful behavior. I'll give you a few examples of how this has worked in action. You'll remember that in the first days of the administration, there was an announcement made just haphazardly one day at 12 o'clock on a Wednesday that by 5 o'clock the next day, the administration was going to freeze all federal funding across the country. What that means was that by the 5 o'clock the next day, there were individuals who weren't sure if they were going to be able to have their Meals on Wheels delivered, that weren't sure if Head Start centers were going to be able to be open, that weren't sure if they were going to be able to get their small business credits. And our team at Democracy Forward saw that and worked alongside some amazing clients, and were able to overnight get into court the next morning and win a nationwide order that has now been extended that stopped that nationwide funding freeze. That is an example, a prime example of how this legal work is not just about our Constitution and our values, although, by the way, we think that is incredibly important, but it is also about protecting people's lives every single day, ensuring that the American people are not going without the services that they need because of this political and ideologically extreme administration. Another example of that type of matter where individual Americans' lives are improved, because of these court orders, was last week when we were able to secure a major win, blocking Elon Musk and Doge from accessing personal data that all of us have on file at the Social Security Administration. And then the judge even took the extra step to say that Musk and Doge have to actually delete the data or disgorge the data that they may have on individual Americans. So these are the types of cases that we are bringing. We are representing right now Baptists and Quakers and Sikhs in a case where we have won a court order to keep ICE from enforcing, from conducting immigration enforcement activities indiscriminately in houses of worship. That is a violation of so many religious liberty protections that we have in our separation of church and state. And it's also an area where the administration is really being quite extreme, and they are in court opposite, for instance, evangelical denominations such as the Baptists. So that is a places. And then, of course, earlier this week, we sued to stop the decimation of the Department of Education, and we have several cases involving public education that we're litigating. And then, as Norm previewed, there again, and he has been a real part of this as well in the communities that he is representing. We are engaged in a case with the ACLU right now, which is really significant because this president has sought to invoke wartime power that should not be used in a time of peace, to summarily remove people from the country without any process whatsoever. It is a matter that should concern every single American, and we've been able to secure because of the leadership of our partners at the ACLU and with our team, a range of court orders blocking that. And of course, you're seeing that in the news because this is a case where the administration sought to ignore what the court asked it to do, and we're having to litigate those compliance issues as well, which we can talk about in the Q&A section. I want to be sure to flag two other things that we are engaged in at Democracy Forward. Number one, and I know this is near and dear to Norm's heart as well, is work in the states. We know that this fight for our people and for our freedom and for our democracy is not just a federal fight, and it's not just one that's going to be won in the federal courts. It is very important that we address state and local extremism and that we provide local communities the tools needed to be able to craft the future and the present that they deserve. And so we are active and have a very robust state practice. We are going to be active litigating against unlawful laws that we anticipate states under far right leadership, like my home state of Texas and states like Florida, will pass. And then we also support communities in a range of other states as well. So I think just wanted to flag that. And it's important that in this moment, we not lose sight of the states and we not let the Trump chaos take up all the airtime and forget the important work that we must do to sustain our freedom and to fight for our future in the states. The second thing that I wanted to flag, which I think is maybe a good way for me to hand it back for this Q&A and what we're doing tonight, is our work at Democracy Forward to build community and to help people find courage. What we know about an extreme autocratic agenda is that one of the primary tools that autocrats use in order to continue to pursue harmful, extreme, and unlawful conduct that is problematic and that hurts everyone is to make us feel alone. And they can make you feel alone by seeking to target you or intimidate you, where you may be in a big room of people, but you still feel alone. They can make you feel alone by convincing you that there's nothing that you can do. Doesn't matter if you go to court because they might just ignore a court order. It doesn't matter if you litigate here because the Supreme Court's going to side with them. All of these things that you hear that they try to put in our heads to make us believe that there is nothing that can be done in this moment to make a difference and that we are not in community with each other. And so at Democracy Forward, in addition to our important legal work and communications work and all the work that we are so honored to do every single day on behalf of communities across the country, we are dedicating many of our resources to helping build community and helping people find courage together. We have some of the bravest clients that are putting their names on papers in federal court every single day against an administration that is seeking to target them. But we know that they can win, and we know that we can move forward together if we do it together. And so that's a lot of our work, is also this courage and community. And I just wanted to end my remarks with that as I turn it over to what I know is going to be a really lively and good Q&A session. So I'm so honored to be here. Thank you for supporting our work. Our team is honored that you're supporting our work, and I'm excited about our conversation tonight.